Welcome back to the show. One of our proud sponsors, Vail Orthopedics. We spoke with Dr. Eric Dorff a little bit ago. Dr. Bill Sterett, kind of a legend, synonymously with the women's U.S. ski team and with the Vail. You've been here for quite some time and been involved with those high-level athletes for a while.
I have. Thanks, Mark. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
I've been involved with the women's ski team, so I've been heavily involved with the high-level women's athletes and their injuries. I've been the head doc for the women's ski team for 20 years now. 4 Olympics,
so you've worked with Lindsey Vonn, you've worked with Michaela Schifrin.
I sure have.
Just to name a few.
I sure have.
Jackie Wiles, who just had an injury? One of the ladies, was it Jackie or was it?
Well, Jackie Wiles sure did. Alice McInnes.
Alice was what I was thinking of.
Yeah, she just broke her tibia out in Mammoth, unfortunately. It's a tough sport on women, that's for sure.
Why is that? Why? I mean, it's tough on everybody, but why? What is it about ladies and alpine ski racing?
You know, it's a great question. Women in sports have been historically about 4 to 5 times higher injury rate, and that's just getting to be more and more in the forefront. So you see any alpine ski racer, it's almost not if, it's when on the women's side of things, when they're going to get hurt. And there's some anatomical factors and some landing factors and all sorts of reasons why the women might have a higher injury rate. But the fact is, you look around these GoPro games, there's some high level athletes, world-class athletes out here, and unfortunately the women are going to have a higher injury rate than the guys.
So and that's what you expect to see over the course of this weekend or the mountain games in general, right?
Unfortunately, it's what you expect to see. It's not what you want to see, but it's what you expect to see.
What kind of injuries do you think are going to be more prevalent, you know, for mountain games? Like, what do you expect?
So I'm mostly a knee guy, and so I'll deal with a lot with the knee injuries in women. And there's some anatomical factors that women are born a little bit more knock-kneed. They have smaller ACLs per body size. Evolution hasn't caught up just yet. Right. So the women are getting bigger. Their ACLs aren't getting bigger, unfortunately. And then there's some other factors. Women, when you watch them, they'll tend to land a little bit more straight-legged than guys do. Guys tend to land a little bit more with a flex knee, which is protective of it. Women in volleyball and basketball with that knock knee, they're landing straight-legged, and that just puts the ACL on stretch and creates a little bit of a pop and injury to the ACL just doing that. So those are things that they might be able to help prevent, is learning to land a little bit more.
But when you're like in the heat of it and you're like, oh, I got to land, it's time to land, right? It doesn't happen. You're moving 80 miles per hour.
It's before this weekend that you got to learn how to adapt your mechanisms for jumping, landing, and squatting and pivoting.
But I think just keeping a flex knee, like when I land, like it just, I mean, that's just kind of natural when you think about it. You don't want to overextend, hyperextend your leg, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. That's exactly what you want to do, is land with your toes, land with your knees flexed, land with your hips flexed. Unfortunately, women, probably because they're a little bit knock-kneed, they tend to land a little bit more extended, straight leg. Yeah. They're also born a little bit more loose jointed. You look at most of the women, or more frequently in the women, they can hyperextend their elbows, hyperextend their knees, bend their thumb all the way down, and that predisposes the ACL to tear. And then when they jump and land straight-legged, that's when you're going to have some injuries.
It's pretty intense information. Now let's simplify it a little bit. Mountain games, you've been here probably since the very first one.
I sure have.
I mean, when it was, before it was even Teba. Anything that you like to watch and be a part of while you're here in the valley? What do you like to see the most?
You know, the most fun and spectacular stuff to me is that slackline. How high they go and how hard they land, and how they almost never fall off that slackline.
Right?
You're looking at this little thin piece of rope that they're landing on, and
you ever tried it?
I've tried it, but like with it about here, and trying to go
we had Liz on it yet? Your wife?
Liz, my wife, owns Live for Balance. She's heavily involved in the whole female strong movement in the wellness entity. And no, I think she's tried it, but I don't know that she's going real high on that either.
I think we're going to, at some point, we're going to get Liz on our show. We're going to talk about Live for Balance and maybe get her on a slackline. Bill, thank you.
Thanks so much, Mark. Great to see you.
All right, Bill Sterett, Vail Summit Orthopedics, one of our presenting sponsors for the Mountain Games 2018. We have more of the show coming up after the break.